Good evening. I'm Don Hudson. Welcome to the 7. Let's get a look at the big 7 stories right now. And topping the list, a shooting close to a North Knoxville park and library. Knoxville police say the victim was shot several times, and at last check, the suspect was still on the run. Now, that shooting happened this afternoon at Edgewood Park, That's 1 block east of Broadway. The victim was apparently shot multiple times in the parking area near the library branch next door. That person suffering from what police call serious injuries, but we don't know the injured person's condition right now. Officers telling us officers were told that a man ran from the scene before they actually got there. And while we don't have any description from police, officers are saying that the victim was at the park there to make what they are calling, quote, a pre-arranged purchase. Investigators are still working this case, and we'll keep you posted. Hopefully we'll have some new information at 11. Our next big story happening as we speak in a community shocked by a child's death. People in Middlesboro, Kentucky holding a vigil at this hour to remember the 17-month-old child who died over the weekend after being taken to East Tennessee Children's Hospital. And as we told you, the little girl's mother, Erica Lawson, you see her there, was arrested in connection with her daughter's death. Lawson faces charges of second-degree manslaughter as well as criminal abuse and failure to report child neglect and child abuse. Community members gathering for tonight's vigil at a city parking lot downtown, with the event aiming to honor that young life cut tragically short. The details in the case that we know so far, painful to hear, really. According to the Bell County Commonwealth Attorney, the 17-month-old had signs of physical and sexual abuse. Our next big story, disturbing claims coming out of a house fire in North Knox County. Now, the Knox County Sheriff's Office believes a man living in the home intentionally set this fire because of a fight over food. Now, the fire happened just after 4 in the morning at a home on Chestnut Ridge Road. Firefighters say they saw heavy smoke and fire coming from the roof and windows of the home when they arrived. The property's owner told deputies that his son, Sidney Witzel, lived in the home and had been living there with a woman. Now, deputies found Witzel fairly quickly when he was arrested in a separate incident for public intoxication at a local store. An investigator tried to interview him, tried to get some information, but they said they didn't learn anything because of his alleged intoxication level. The woman, who investigators considered unaccounted for most of the morning, called investigators herself, saying that she had left the scene because she was afraid for her life. She claims that she had cooked herself a meal, and when Witzel woke up and found out there weren't any leftovers, he got angry. The woman tells officers she went downstairs to get away from him. She says she heard a loud noise that shook the house. She rushed up the stairs but found the door had been locked from the outside, trapping her in the basement. Fortunately, she was able to break through a broken rear door to exit the house. She apparently saw Witzel standing next to the pool, watching the house burn, and just decided to run. A huge story breaking just about 2 hours ago to pass on. Federal prosecutors are now accusing former President Donald Trump of trying to, quote, obstruct the electoral vote after losing the 2020 election. That's the new indictment filed this afternoon, a third against Trump, including the Mar-a-Lago classified documents investigation and a superseding indictment filed last month. Along with the former president, the indictment also names 6 unnamed co-conspirators said to be from the president's inner circle and 4 criminal counts. A federal grand jury looking into the Trump team actions after the 2020 election, leading up to the chaos at the Capitol on January 6. Special counsel Jack Smith saying what happened that day was an assault on American democracy.
It was fueled by lies. Lies by the defendant targeted at obstructing a bedrock function of the U.S. government, the nation's process of collecting, counting, and certifying the results of the presidential election.
The indictment not a surprise to the former president, who had already received a target letter telling him he was the focus of a grand jury investigation. The former president is due in court on Thursday. Meanwhile, the Trump presidential campaign responding to the indictment on Trump's Truth Social platform, questioning the timing with the race for the White House underway. The campaign statement goes on to compare the indictment to something like Nazi Germany or the former Soviet Union. The statement goes on to say, quote, President Trump has always followed the law and the Constitution with advice from many highly accomplished attorneys. Another answer from a fire investigation making our Big 7 list of stories tonight as well. Now, we now know the identity of a person found inside a Seymour home after a fire that happened yesterday. 38-year-old Brittany Justice was found inside after crews arrived at the home about 4 in the morning. That home located off Chapman Highway near Floyd's Market. They extinguished the fire. But right now, the TBI and the Sheriff's Office, also the Criminal Investigation Division, still investigating exactly what caused that fire. We're also learning the names of 2 people arrested in connection with a body found on North Shore Drive. The Sheriff's Office telling us that Jason Lamont Young and Rontel Deshawn Allen are now both charged with arson. Young is also charged with theft of property between $10,000 and $60,000. Earlier, we learned the name of the woman who was found dead, Alma Matias. Now, the jogger found Matias's body early Sunday morning along North Shore Drive. That's just outside of the Concord Park area there. The Sheriff's Office is calling this a homicide investigation, and deputies are still looking into her death. A spokesperson also saying that Sheriff Spangler wants to remind the public that, quote, this is an isolated event, end of quote. Of course, we'll continue to follow the investigative process here. Our Big 7 list rolls on. Tennessee's grocery tax holiday is up and running as of today. This is part of Governor Lee's Tennessee Works Tax Act, and unlike the back-to-school tax holiday, this one runs more than just a weekend. It's going for a full 3 months. Tennessee is one of only a dozen states that still imposes a tax on groceries, and that's something shoppers are very aware of.
I think it's great. I think a lot of states don't tax food ever, so I think it's something definitely to offer at least a weekend or 2 a year for Tennessee. I think food is something everybody needs, so sometimes that really hits the wallet.
Now, the sales tax holiday runs through October 31st, basically Halloween. This covers food ingredients, but not a lot of prepared food items. Doesn't cover a range of other items like alcohol, tobacco, candy, and dietary supplements either. An update from last night's Tennessee Treasure that we want to share with you. We're talking about the pushback from learning that nearly a 100-year-old East Knoxville home could be demolished. Now, the home is known as the Sturkey home. The Sturkey brothers were a very prominent family in Knoxville that founded a furniture company that became nationally known. Knox Heritage, an organization that works to preserve historic sites in Knoxville, says it wants to work with the property owners to preserve the site instead of tearing it down.
So this house is eligible for the National Register, but it has not actually been placed on that list. There is a process that has to go through, an application process. You typically have to work with the property owners, and that's something that just hasn't been done.
Now, we have reached out to the property owner for comment, have not heard back at this time. All right, we're wrapping up our Big 7 list with UT football. The Tennessee team reporting for fall camp today. Practices starting tomorrow at the Anderson Training Center. Josh Heupel spoke to the media this afternoon before the Vols take the field for their first practice of fall camp tomorrow. Head coach has had plenty of success in his first 2 seasons. Last year, the Vols won 11 games for the first time since 2001. Usually with success brings the departure of assistant coaches. Heupel has been very fortunate to maintain stability in that department. During his tenure, only wide receivers coach Cody Burns and offensive coordinator Alex Goulash have left. The stability has helped the Vols build trust and gain a lot of momentum.
First of all, like cornerstone pieces of who we are, the foundation's been set, it's been laid. Great trust and accountability inside of our walls. You know, our players, just their daily habits, who they are, what they're about, how they compete individually with themselves and collectively as a group too. We've come a long ways in a short amount of time.
Heupel continued to say that the roster is even more solid now that they have more scholarships. He added that with the depth, there is more competition, which adds to the development and adds to the improvement. A lot of competition there.